Super Bowl 50 is almost here, and fans are making their plans to party at home and at other venues. And a lucky few are heading off for California to watch the game at Levi's Stadium. Those of us who stay home and watch are almost as excited about the commercials as we are about the action on the field. And the advertisers know it. They've been planning their ads for months and securing their spot in the telecast, which this year is going for $5 million for 30 seconds. Is the Super Bowl a good investment, though? What kinds of ads play the best? And how do companies know they got the most bang for their big bucks? To find out, we asked 3 marketing specialists. First, Aaron Goldman, Chief Marketing Officer for 4C Insights, a media measurement company. He says that the big game is the big time for advertisers for several reasons.
At the end of the day, the Super Bowl is the single biggest place to reach a massive number of people. And for advertisers, you can reach them all at the same time with the same message, which is increasingly rare in today's day and age, where a lot of people are now going digital and watching TV, as they call it, over the top, whether that's through things like Netflix or Hulu, or even if they're using their kind of traditional broadcast and cable means, they're recording it on a DVR and time shifting and watching later. And the Super Bowl is kind of the last bastion of live linear television.
Goldman says it's the best place to advertise for companies that want to make a big splash, get their names and products out there, and even just keep their names in the public's consciousness. But how do you know your demographics before you invest millions in ads? Those commercials are created and the time bought before anyone even knows who's playing.
I think in the case of the Super Bowl, it almost doesn't matter who's playing. It's a national event, and people will tune in from everywhere to watch it. Sure, you have the rabid fans who have their teams that are lucky enough to be in the game are probably more actively engaged than others, but it is something that all fans are tuning in for, and frankly, even non-fans. You got a lot of people, this is the one game a year they watch because they know it's such a big production, or sometimes they just want to see the fun ads.
We've seen a lot of familiar companies at the Super Bowl: Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola, and Honda, just to name a few. We also see some smaller companies, such as WeatherTech and GoDaddy. Who benefits most from spending that much money on an ad? The big guys or the upstarts?
There is a benefit that differs depending on size.
That's David Stewart, President's Professor of Marketing at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles.
The smaller companies actually reap the biggest benefit because not only do they get the spike in awareness, spike in positive attitude, that tends to persist over time. It tends to go up and doesn't really come back down, coupled with the fact that there tends to be kind of a halo effect in that people report greater satisfaction and greater purchase intention after having seen a Super Bowl ad for a smaller share brand.
Stewart says that in order to create and keep the momentum going before and after the ad plays, companies need to use social media to get the ball rolling on their brand and keep it rolling.
Putting the ads online in your own website, on YouTube, on Vine, on various social media can be very powerful. Using social media to encourage people to tune into the ad, sort of creating a sense of anticipation. Our ad's going to be great. Be sure to tune in. That can be very helpful. Encouraging people to share with others an ad that's posted online can be very powerful. A company that's done this very, very well is Frito-Lay, which runs a competition where their consumers create advertising content, and the winning ad is run in the Super Bowl itself with a sizable prize if the ad plays very well.
What makes an ad memorable besides spreading it around social media? Richard Crevelin says it should tell a compelling story. Crevelin is a branding and storytelling consultant to large and small companies and author of the book The Hook: How to Share Your Brand's Unique Story to Engage Customers, Boost Sales, and Achieve Heartfelt Success.
For most companies, and you can see it all across the board in different types of business, we have to do more than just talk about function. We have to emotionally differentiate ourselves. Why are we different? Well, you can talk about Coke and Pepsi, but you see all the advertising Coke is doing over Christmas, and it's about emotion. They don't even mention anything about the product. It's about joy and happiness and Christmas giving. It's interesting when you have a product, especially that's been around for a while, you can go beyond the function, what the product does.
And Crevelin says that nobody tells a heartfelt story better than Anheuser-Busch and the Clydesdales.
They've done a tremendous job with their stories, and that's obviously what I've dedicated my life to is storytelling. And every year I enjoy looking forward to the Anheuser-Busch TV commercials because they're not talking about their hops. They're not talking about their brewing process. They're telling stories about horses or dogs. There was the runaway dog last year. They're really beautifully shot. They're really touching stories that people will watch over and over again online and share with their friends.
You know that they're doing well with their spot when they don't even have to show the product for people to remember that they're selling beer. But how does a company know how well it's doing? Goldman says that his company, 4C, uses all kinds of high-tech communications systems and measuring tools.
The first is through Teletrax, which is a network of monitoring that we've installed across the globe. So we're active in 76 countries. We've got monitoring stations that every second are measuring what's on air on 2,200 channels. And we are tracking the content or program that's running, as well as any ad or commercial that may come up in between. And we're continually indexing all of this information, and within just a matter of seconds, we can verify if a certain program or commercial ran. And that's the first step, is just seeing, okay, what actually ran on the big screen. The second step in terms of measuring the response is the viewership, and that comes from a couple of different sources. Set-top box data is a great way for us to be able to see if people are actively engaged or fast-forwarding through the commercials, and so that's something that can also come in within a matter of hours.
They get the data from watermarks that they insert in the ads and from cable and satellite TV set-top boxes. Goldman says that they also measure what people are doing in social media.
We're tracking more than 1.5 billion individuals across Facebook and Twitter through publicly available information, I should mention. We're not doing anything nefarious here. And we're able to see if they're engaging with brands or with celebrities or with football teams in the case of the Super Bowl. And we can see what they're posting about, what they're tweeting about, and we're able to draw some of those correlations back against what was running on the television. So because we're seeing every second what's actually being broadcast on air, we can map those timestamps against social media and begin to see some of these patterns. And we'll see, when a commercial runs, we'll see a spike in chatter on social media. Or when a big play happens in the game, we can see an increase in engagement around it. And those are the types of correlations that are really important for broadcasters and advertisers to understand what the resonance is with what's being broadcast and if the consumers are actually doing anything with it.
As our guests said, the Super Bowl will get a huge audience no matter who's playing. Stewart says that given a choice, advertisers would like to see a particular type of game on Super Sunday.
You really want a game that's very competitive, preferably one that's high scoring, that keeps interest value high. The last thing an advertiser wants is a defensive slug match that ends, like 6-3. People tend to lose interest. But where there's a lot of scoring, it's very competitive, goes down to the last minute, that type of game tends to hold people's attention throughout. That makes for good places to advertise throughout the game.
So, do our guests have any advice on making a Super Bowl ad that's as memorable as Coca-Cola's 1980 Mean Joe Green or Apple Computer's 1984 Orwellian masterpiece? Crevelin says, make it meaningful to your brand and the viewers.
If we spend the money to connect to these people, what is the true essence of the message we're trying to convey? And then is this form of video, is this communication we have something that's going to help us as a brand? And are we going to be able to do it in a way that's unique and memorable and people are going to really be emotionally moved? In the end, I like to define stories as information wrapped in emotion.
Goldman and Stewart say don't think about your spot in isolation.
This is not a one-and-done type of thing where you're going to create something, it's going to run during the game, and it's going to go great. If that happens, then good for you, but it's really important to engage across all different channels, and especially social media.
It's really important for firms who are contemplating placing an ad in the Super Bowl or some other major event to really think about a broader marketing campaign that simply uses the advertisement as a starting point around which you'll build a much larger campaign that will start before and after the event.
You can find some of the Super Bowl ads online already, and you'll be able to see them and perhaps even vote on your favorites during and after the game. To learn more about how to tell a great story for your brand, pick up Richard Krevelin's book, The Hook, available now. You can also visit his website at powerstoryconsulting.com. Aaron Goldman invites listeners to visit his company's site at the number 4, the letter C, insights.com. And to find out more about David Stewart and Loyola Marymount University, log on to their site at lmu.edu. And you can visit our site at viewpointsonline.net. You can find archives of past programs there and on iTunes and Stitcher. Our show is written and produced by Pat Reuter. Our production directors are Sean Waldron and Reed Pence. I'm Marty Peterson.
Medicare and their list of suppliers continue to change. So if you have diabetes, it may affect where you get your testing supplies. But rest assured that your number one doctor-recommended one-touch testing supplies are always covered by Medicare Part B at your local pharmacy and approved mail-order suppliers. Dr. Brian Levy, Chief Medical Officer at LifeScan, maker of one-touch products.
Some mail-order suppliers may offer a limited selection of diabetes testing supplies. They may try to switch you to a different brand, saying your current products are no longer covered. That's just not true. You are entitled to continue using the products you know and trust and that have been recommended by your healthcare professional at no additional cost.
Remember, you have a choice. Stay with the number one brand used by Medicare patients. For questions about coverage or where to get your one-touch testing supplies, call 1-866-621-6216 or visit www.onetouch.com/Medicare. Medicare Part B is not a guarantee of coverage and payment, which may be subject to coinsurance, deductible, and patient eligibility requirements.
Quaker is on the hunt for America's next great oatmeal flavor with the Bring Your Best Bowl contest. Simply submit your oatmeal flavor using 2 to 5 ingredients along with your creative inspiration for a chance to win $250,000 and inspire Quaker's newest oatmeal flavor. As an actress, cooking show host, and mom of 2, Tiffany Thiessen knows a thing or two about tasty creations.
I'm excited to be a part of Quaker's Bring Your Best Bowl contest because I love the endless combinations you can cook up with oatmeal. From savory to sweet, for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, there are so many yummy ways to enjoy it. Enter your oatmeal submission now by visiting bringyourbestbowl.com. You'll also find a little oatspiration from videos and my own favorite recipes.
No purchase necessary. Open to legal residents of the 50 U.S. states, D.C. or Puerto Rico. 18 years of age or older at time of entry. Find the official rules and more details at bringyourbestbowl.com. Void where prohibited. Enter now through March 12, 2016. That's bringyourbestbowl.com. Sponsor the Quaker Oats Company.